I'm Amy the Bunny Lady, and this is my partner Elusive, Ellie for short. High five. Good job. And today we are going to talk about having more than one bunny. Do you really need two rabbits, or is it okay to have a single bun? If you're new to our channel, welcome. We give tips and tricks for how to make sure you have a happy and healthy bunny in your home. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then go ahead and hit that subscription button and the notification bell next to it so that you never miss any of our weekly videos. So really it comes down to rabbits as social creatures do need socialization. You're cute. That's Teddy Bear, by the way. He wasn't in my intro, but he's here. If you are not spending time with your rabbit on a day-to-day basis, you're not giving them a lot of interaction, then yeah, you really probably should consider getting another rabbit to keep them company. But if your rabbit is showing you signs that they're happy, you spend a lot of time with them, like they're part of the family kind of the same way a cat or dog is, then it's less of an urgent issue because your rabbit is getting socialization. However, even in these scenarios, it is usually better for a rabbit to have a partner. They will be able to get more socialization from another rabbit. As a general rule, a rabbit will be happier if they have a second rabbit to spend time with. So basically, it comes down to this. If you do have the capacity to go and get a second rabbit and spend the time bonding them, then yes, I definitely encourage you to do it. It will almost definitely be better for your rabbit in the long run. However, if you can't do that right now, if you have a single rabbit and, you know, they're showing signs that they're happy, you're spending time with them, then I don't want you to feel guilty about having just one rabbit, because your rabbit can still be happy. You just have to do a lot more work in making sure that you keep them socialized and give them enough attention so that they can remain happy. So there are actually a number of benefits to having more than one rabbit, both to their own social and mental health, but also to being able to run a smoother household without having to worry as much about your rabbit. The first and foremost thing is that your rabbits will be able to keep each other company. Because even the most well-intentioned humans will not be able to keep your rabbits company all the time. Part of that is because our sleep schedules are different. So rabbits will be active in... Hi, sweetie. Rabbits will be active in like the morning and the evening hours. They'll sleep through most of the afternoon, and they'll only sleep through like the middle part of the night. That automatically means that there's going to be some hours where they're active and we're sleeping. So we can't really interact with them. Well, getting another rabbit will solve that problem because rabbits will have the same sleep schedules. They can spend as much time together as they want. And same goes true for if you work in an office or you work away from home, then there'll be a good portion of the day where you can't spend with your rabbit, whereas now that you have a second rabbit, they can spend all day together. It is also usually the case that your rabbits will be happier if you have a second rabbit for them. Many people will say that rabbits speak the same language so that they can meet each other's needs a lot easier than a human can meet a rabbit's needs. That's almost true. Like, I do find, especially when you're first bonding rabbits, they don't speak the same language, but they can certainly learn to communicate. And since they are the same species, in the long run, they will probably be able to learn how to communicate more effectively with each other than they can with the person. But in the short term, I don't think that that's necessarily true. Your rabbit learns how to communicate with another rabbit, just like they can learn to communicate with you. It's just a matter of the ease in which they can learn that communication. But once they do learn it, then it's a lot easier for them to be happier and meet each other's needs. Bonded rabbits also will usually get into less trouble. Now, this isn't always the case. Usually this happens because the rabbit will be less bored. They have a friend to play with all the time now, so they don't need to go and dig at the corner of your carpet all the time. Now that they have a friend to play with, they don't need to go and chew on the baseboards because they're bored and they just need something to do. So now it can keep them occupied. They can be happier and enjoy hanging out with each other rather than trying to figure out something that they can do to relieve their boredom around the home. Now, it's not always the case. There are some times where you just have a little troublemaker bunny and they can even egg your other bunny on, and it ends up being more destructive in the long term. So this is just a general rule, remember. It's not every single case that that's going to happen. So there are definitely a lot of benefits to getting a second rabbit, and I really do encourage you to look into it if that's something that you think that, you know, you want to do. I do want you to make sure you take the bonding process seriously, because it can be very stressful and difficult, especially if it's your first time bonding. So you can check out my Bonding 101 video to help you get started, but really find as many resources as you can about this, because it's pretty complicated and it's going to be different depending on your rabbits. So as much information as you can get, really the better. Now, just because rabbits will usually be happier if they have a friend, that doesn't mean they can't be happy if they are still kept as a single rabbit. In fact, as someone who volunteers in an animal shelter with rescue rabbits all the time, I can see firsthand the difference that just a human interaction with a rabbit can make. Oftentimes, these rabbits come in, they've come from neglectful backgrounds, and they come in, they're super shy, withdrawn, depressed rabbits. And even just the attention that the volunteers and staff can give these rabbits makes a huge difference in their behavior, in their demeanor. They start to come out of their shell within a very short amount of time, just because they're getting this little bit of interaction. As the volunteers and the staff, we can't give each individual animal a whole lot of our attention. There's just not that much time available. So it's even with just this little bit of attention that these rabbits are able to become happier, and you can see the difference that it makes. So you can imagine then how much bigger the difference will be if you can actually give your rabbit hours and hours of attention every day. A rabbit that goes to a loving home that will give them the attention and treat them as a companion can in fact be quite happy and definitely not be a depressed rabbit. In fact, one of the attitudes that frustrates me the most, I think, as someone who does volunteer at a shelter, is this attitude that if you can't get 2 rabbits, you shouldn't get 1. A lot of times rabbits in shelters are single rabbits. Every once in a while you'll be able to find a bonded pair in an animal shelter, but oftentimes you can only find them single. But also it's just the idea that, like, if you don't have the resources to take care of 2 rabbits, but you can give 1 rabbit a very loving home, I would much rather see a rabbit go home than just stay in the shelter because someone couldn't bring 2 home. There really are just so many rabbits who could absolutely benefit from a family, from you taking them home and giving them love, even if it's just as a single rabbit. So definitely don't feel guilty about just having 1 rabbit, because, like, you're giving them a home. You're keeping them out of the shelter. That in itself is a good thing. I also think that when it comes to bonding rabbits, you also need to make sure to not take bonding lightly. It can be quite difficult, especially if it's your first time and you don't know what you're doing. You can run into a lot of problems, it can be stressful, and you want to make sure you take the time to both research it and wait until you're ready. Because, for example, if it's a stressful time at work and you're not going to be able to give your rabbits a lot of attention when it comes to the bonding process, you should probably wait until after whatever project you're on is done, so that you're not going to be as stressed out about work. You want to make sure that you are ready for this, and it's not just because someone told you have to do it. Bonding and bringing a second rabbit into your home is much more likely to go downhill or not work out at all if you're not prepared. That also means if you're not prepared emotionally, because it's going to be stressful. I will tell you right now, it's going to be stressful. So if you're not ready for that, then wait until you are. It's also important to point out that 2 rabbits do actually take more resources than just 1. This means you have to spend more on food, on litter, and that can add up. It's going to be at least a little bit more in terms of the price you pay for supplies, but then you also need to be prepared for potentially twice the amount of veterinary care. You want to bring your rabbits in for their annual exams every year, but if something goes wrong health-wise, there's a potential for twice as many emergency situations that you need to be prepared for. So definitely make sure that in terms of your monetary resources, you also have extra money saved up for when you get a second rabbit, just in case something happens. If you're not sure if now is the time to get a second rabbit, you're really interested in getting a second rabbit, but you're like scared of the commitment, or you're just not sure if right now is a good time, there are some questions you can ask yourself. First is, how much time are you currently able to spend with your rabbit? So if you are able to spend hours a day, like number of hours in the morning and number of hours in the evening with your rabbit, and they are showing you signs that they are happy and they love the attention, they binky or zoom around, or they'll come and rest next to you, maybe even groom you a little bit, and they show you that they love you, they're basically showing you that they are obviously a happy rabbit, then I would say it's not urgent that you get a second rabbit. Sure, maybe your rabbit can benefit from having a friend, but they're also obviously very happy right now. So if you want to get a second rabbit, that's okay, go for it. But your rabbit is telling you that they're happy. That's them communicating with you that they're happy. And it's okay to believe them. The second question you want to ask yourself is, are all rabbits involved in this bonding spayed or neutered? Because rabbits that have not been fixed are much more likely to be seriously territorial and seriously aggressive. It's a lot more difficult to get the bonding to work. So you definitely want to make sure that all rabbits involved have been spayed and neutered, and it's been at least a month since their surgery. This will help make sure that both their surgery, incisions, and whatnot have healed, and it will also help to make sure that their hormones have calmed down. So if this is not the case yet, then you do want to wait until you have gotten your rabbit fixed. You also want to ask yourself if you have the resources to care for 2 rabbits. Do you have the money to care for 2 rabbits if they get sick? Do you have the extra supplies that you need in order to keep your rabbits separately while you're bonding them? Do you have a place where you can bond your rabbits in a neutral territory? You want to make sure you have these resources available so that you can care for your second rabbit as lovingly as you care for your first. Also, if you live in an apartment or a condo, you want to make sure with your management that it is okay for you to have more than 1 pet, because sometimes there is a 1 pet limit. So you do want to make sure that that's not like against the rules or something like that. Another question to ask yourself is, do you have the time to bond rabbits? Because bonding rabbits takes a lot of time, pretty much whatever technique you're going to use. You want to make sure that you can devote a number of hours every day, or even longer as you get into the later stages of this, to bond your rabbits. So if you don't have the time to devote specifically to bonding, but you do want to get a second rabbit, then maybe consider in the future taking a couple weeks vacation, if you can, and spending that time to bond rabbits. It's something that you do want to make sure you give your single rabbit a lot of attention, but a lot of times, since bonding rabbits can be so stressful, you need to give them stretches of attention, of just paying attention to your rabbits for long periods of time. And if you're in a stressful place in your life, then it might mean that you just don't have the time to give to bonding. So definitely something you want to ask yourself. The other question that you want to ask yourself before deciding to get a second rabbit is whether or not your current rabbit has any medical conditions that would make bonding too stressful. Since bonding is a stressful process, it could potentially cause medical conditions such as a rabbit that has an imbalanced gut to go into diastasis, or it could cause pain for a rabbit that has arthritis, or things like that. So especially if you have an elderly rabbit, it may not be a good idea to bond them with another rabbit. But there are also other medical conditions that really could affect your decision. So if you do have a rabbit who is prone to any medical problems or has any known diseases like a kidney disease or something along those lines, then you really want to contact your vet first and ask them what they think. But it really might not be the best choice for you and your rabbit in those scenarios. And again, if you really are thinking about bonding your rabbits, I recommend checking out my Bonding 101 video. You can head over there to learn the basics. And if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that YouTube knows that it's good. And thank you so much for watching, and I do hope that I will see you next week.